The Constitutional Court has dismissed the opposition MDC's electoral results challenge. This means Emmerson Mnangagwa is the duly elected president of Zimbabwe. Chief Justice Luke Malaba handed down the ruling in Harare a short while ago. He says that although opposition leader Nelson Chamisa breached the deadline in filing the MDC's challenge, it was in the country's best interests for the court to consider the application. The opposition MDC alliance claimed irregularities and vote rigging in the July 30th polls. However, Judge Malaba says the court could find no evidence of this. The ruling clears the way for Emmerson Mnangagwa to be inaugurated as president this weekend.
In the result, the following order is made. The application is dismissed with cause in terms of Section 93, subsection 4, subparagraph A of the Constitution. Emmerson Mnangagwa is duly declared the winner of the presidential elections held on the 30th of July 2018. As indicated, there will be a fully dressed judgment in due course on these issues.
Well, for more insights into that judgment, let's cross over to the Johannesburg studios. Professor David Moore is the head of development studies at the University of Johannesburg. Professor Moore, thank you for joining us on Africa Live. Now, first off, though, what is your take on the ruling today?
Well, thanks for inviting me. The ruling, as we watched it on television, and it was streamed live, as were the petitions a couple of days ago, which is actually quite an advance for the democratic process. And it looked very succinct and accurate, and the judge, Luke Malaba, said, look, we didn't have enough primary evidence, we had secondary evidence, we didn't see the teachers who were apparently not allowed to vote, and a number of things like this. They wanted the ballots, and before in the court, Tabani Mpofu, the lawyer for the MDC, who had his 25 extra minutes to speak, he said, well, we didn't really think the ballots were clean. They thought they'd already been adjusted. Anyway, the decision has been made, and I think it was almost a predetermined decision anyway. Not too many people thought the court would go a different way. The court has made a political decision in many ways. They staved off the worries about a runoff election. Everybody remembers the 2008 runoff election when many, 170 people were killed and many more tortured and displaced. So we didn't want that sort of situation to occur. And it was a, it looked like a proper ceremony, and it avoided all the issues of pre-election intimidation and gerrymandering and all of that sort of stuff. So the MDC has accepted this, although they're making it very clear that they're unhappy with it. And I don't think there will be demonstrations on the streets, because when the last demonstrations occurred on August 1st, 6 or 7 people were killed, some of them in the back by the army. So the next stage would be either Mnangagwa and Chiwenga putting out some sort of an olive branch and bringing in more, bringing in a coalition or something. And then what does the MDC respond to that? Or maybe they won't make that offer. We don't know yet.
So you talk about possibly the administration pulling out some sort of olive branch, but going by the election process, though, and the political developments on the ground, and as you mentioned rightly, the August 1st violence, what is the best strategy, though, for Zimbabwe to move forward post-Mugabe?
To move forward, well, I think there will, there are lots of armored vehicles in the streets, and hopefully nobody will shoot anybody. To move forward, I think Mnangagwa and Chiwenga have to recover from those incidents on August 1st, and they lost a lot of credibility. There was a lot of international credibility and local and regional credibility riding on this election being peaceful, free, and fair. So it turned out not to be so peaceful, and the main supporters for the regime were kind of the British, who had changed their mind. In the past they'd supported the MDC, now they seem to be supporting Mnangagwa as the guy who could bring in a clean sweep and open up Zimbabwe for business and get this economy revived. If the international community can accept that there is a broom coming in, and if there are offers made, perhaps credible people brought in to govern the Reserve Bank. Some people are talking about Nkosazana Moyo, who ran a credible campaign as a president without a party. And he's been in finance and he's seen as honest and reputable. Perhaps bringing in some people who were in the MDC but are no longer, such as perhaps David Coulthard. He could be brought. He didn't win a senatorial contest. He could come in as Minister of Education. If there were gestures made like that. But also I think on the economy, the government since, go ahead, yes?
Well, I just wanted to bring you in there on the economy, as you rightly mentioned. President Mnangagwa, President-elect, has mentioned about opening up Zimbabwe for business, though, and he's pushing for investment in the country. So looking at the president's ambitions, though, are you convinced he will deliver reforms that will attract foreign investments and break away from the past?
Well, there seem to be lots of efforts made. There are technical teams in ministries and departments, but it's hard to say. I mean, there's a long legacy of the military being heavily involved in the diamonds and shady deals made with companies all around the world, which aren't very clean. And even in agriculture, and there were a lot of votes, I'm sure, that were gained by this command agriculture, which artificially raised the price of maize, and again, it was with some fairly shonky business people, so that now the price of maize is high for producers, for peasants, but if you're going to buy it, it's actually cheaper to buy maize from South Africa. So you have a long history of the economy going like this and agriculture not being revived. They say they will compensate the farmers who lost their lands. Where will they get the money for that? The economy itself, I mean, in terms of finance, there's basically no reserves to fund the electronic transfers that are going around between government and individuals and bank accounts. If those are ever cashed in, well, there's no cash, and you've seen the lines on the ATM queues and so on. And there's no 2008, 2009, when the GNU came about, they could convert their useless Zimbabwean currency to American dollars, but that option is finished now. There's no other currencies there to take up. So there's going to be a lot of hard work to be done, and that would depend on a political solution which either brings in some MDC people or the MDC remains in opposition and rebuilds. That's very important.
Professor David Moore joining us there from Johannesburg. Thank you for your insights.